Hey, this is Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling with Platinum vs. Raw, July 6, 2020 edition. Okay, open the show with the typical Raw opening. Still very impressive, still very WWE production level. And we get something very interesting, which we haven't had in a long time since I've started doing this, which is a series of match announcements at the top of the show, just like it was a professionally run wrestling show or something. Very nice to see WWE catching up with AEW, which is hysterical. I would love to think that I had something to do with this. Even if I did not, I'm just going to, in my mind, pretend that I did. We're going to have Asuka versus Bayley. Champ versus champ. Of course, this is never explained. Rant number one. So they say champ versus champ, which makes me think immediately we're not going to have any kind of finish, since at the pay-per-view it's going to be Asuka against Sasha Banks. Seems unlikely that Asuka would lose the title or win both of them. So when they say champ versus champ, they de-emphasize the title switching part, which I think is a bit of a bait and switch and also confusing unnecessarily so for the viewers. For one night, we're going to put the titles aside, but the two champions are going to take each other on in a match to decide who's the best, blah, 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 blah. There's lots of ways to get around this, lots of ways to do it, but they are not interested. Again, WWE has gotten rid of the finite details, which I think, while not in and of itself leading to bad ratings or anything like that, is sort of an indication of a lack of care overall, which is not a good precedent to set. Another match that gets announced, Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black will take on Seth Rollins and Murphy. Okay. And then the third match announcement, I have to laugh at this one. Oh, by the way, I ended the rant, so I gotta hit the bell again. Whoops, sorry. We've got the Viking Raiders and the Big Show against Andrade, Angel Garcia, and Orton. I wrote in my notes here, here's your match. Orton stays out of the match, slips in at the end, hits the RKO, and gets the pin. Show never touches him. We'll see if that comes to pass. Then we get Drew Galloway coming to the ring. So we're starting the show, which is nice. And Dolph Ziggler comes to the ring. And what's the stipulation going to be for their match, since Drew Galloway said Dolph Ziggler could pick it after they had already signed the contracts, which is weird. Dolph no-sells it. I'm not going to tell you what the secret is, what the stipulation is. And then Drew Galloway basically dismisses that as, I knew you were going to say that. Very weird. Wouldn't Drew Galloway react bigger to Dolph deceiving him or holding that information from him? I don't know. And then Heath Slater is called to the ring, delivers a phenomenal promo to the point where the audience claps for the Heath promo, even though it's a de facto heel promo, which is very strange. And then it does beg the question, like, who's the heel in this? It should be Heath Slater, but he's got all the justification in the world on his side. And then they're going to fight. And then we go to commercial. This is a well-timed commercial because they actually have a hook and drag to come back, which is we want to see Drew and Heath fight. Both of them are in street clothes, however, so we'll see how that plays out. We come back from commercial, and Drew and Heath Slater are in street clothes. Gotcha. Take their shirts off. Okay. Heath jumps him right away and actually looks good. His offense looks really good, even though it's just punchy-kicky stuff. But then Drew gets a little bit of daylight and hits him with the Claymore kick and pins him. Oh. This makes sense for a lot of reasons, not the least of which, because that's not the point. The point is the story that they're telling, which they do very effectively. Ziggler attacks Heath at one point. Drew saves him. And then Drew and Heath have a moment where they hug. Really powerful, really good segment. Probably the best opening thing they've done in a while, though I did like the contract signing that already started in disarray last week as well. Raw's getting stronger in this regard, and saying a few of your matches at the top of the show also is an indication of a little bit of control and stability, which I think serves them very well. Get an interview with Bailey and Sasha, and then they said Asuka's alone. They leave. Asuka comes out, who says that I'm alone. So in spite of the rumors that have been floated that Kairi Sane is not here, not going to be on Raw, I'm assuming it's going to be her. If it's not her, this doesn't make sense. And if it is her, I think that's a great thing to do. Go to another commercial break, come back. Apparently the show has been changed. Instead of being Extreme Rules The Horror Show, which is a name that I ranted about, they have now changed it to The Horror Show at Extreme Rules, which is supposed to be better. Rant. It's not better. It's really terrible. I don't know why they're holding on to this horror show thing in July. They don't need to do it. I suppose it's a case now where they've been roped into it and they want to call it the horror show. Do we have horror matches? I guess the swamp match is supposed to be part of this horror show thing. Terrible. If the swamp match is going to be a major part of this, I assume it's going to be one of these cinematic matches. Then why not just call it Extreme Rules in Your Swamp? That's much better, isn't it? Yes. Cool. We're going to get Bailey versus Nikki Cross at Extreme Rules. I'm not going to call it the horror show at Extreme Rules. I'm not going to do that. Bailey and Sasha talk again. Boy, they sure seem to realize that the women are the best part of this show, don't they? That's good. Asuka then shows up with Kairi Sane. Yay! Commercial. Okay. Are we going to get a tag match? What are we going to get? We come back and we got Sasha versus Kairi Sane. They start having a good match. Kairi Sane's timing is very good and Sasha's very good. We go to commercial. NXT commercial at last. Boy, I wish they would get these in earlier. Right, but this is a woman's segment, so the ratings are high for that. So that's a good time as any to put an NXT commercial for the Great American Bash second part this Wednesday. They come back from commercial. Bailey breaking up that submission that Kairi Sane got on Sasha, which looked amazing, is a great finish. I thought they were going to have Kairi get pinned by Sasha as a way of building Sasha up. Instead, they've kind of done it instantly where they put all four of these people on an equal plane. Sasha, Bailey, Kairi Sane, and Asuka. And I think it's the much smarter move. Yeah, really, really good, that breakup. Then we go to a recap last week with Seth and Murphy versus Humberto and Alistair, showing that Seth and Murphy went over, which I write in my notes here, which is a sure indication that they're going to lose tonight, because that's how Raw clips tend to go. We get a commercial, we get a promo for Cannonball. We get a lot of those, and apparently there's going to be some kind of preview of this Cannonball water show hosted by The Miz after Raw. Yay. Everyone's excited.
I'm tapping your back.
Are you excited?
I'm tapping your back.
One of my kids say she's tapping my back. Ooh. We come back with a promo of the Viking Raiders, who have a bowling ball. Boy, we can't let the bad jokes go, huh? We got a bowling ball. Big Show shows up, says it's serious business because I'm going to get my hands on Randy Orton. I write in my notes again, he is not going to get his hands on Randy Orton. We have the KO show, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. I tuned out for a lot of this. Watching them yammer on about WrestleMania and whose career has gone worse since WrestleMania is a great way to put neither of them over. Kevin Owens gives him a KO Mania 4 shirt. And the hits keep coming. We got Ray and Dominic. And so we're going to have a match. Ray and Kevin Owens against Seth and Murphy. Because apparently Aleister Black isn't going to do it. Okay. And then the winner picks the stipulations for Extreme Rules. Okay. I guess they're going to have Ray versus Seth. I guess. Wow. We go to commercial. We come back, Ray and Kevin against Seth and Murphy. The only interesting spot in the match is when Seth goes after the eye of Dominic, which prompts action. And then we go to commercial. And then we come back. Mysterio eventually gets the pin and then says the really, really weird line of we're going to have an eye for an eye match, whatever that is. And then Rey Mysterio says, I'll pull your eye out with my bare hands. Seems like a lot. Seems like a stipulation they're not going to be able to do. Weird. We go to last week when MVP pinned Cruz in the old guys go over all night long theme that we had last week. Interview with MVP and Lashley. Not much of note happening here. We go to commercial. We come back. We get Lashley and MVP versus Cedric, Alexander, and Ricochet. They wrestle for a while. We go to commercial. You can see a theme here. We're breaking up all these matches and we're stretching things out as much as possible. They got in a total of 7 matches tonight on a 3-hour show. Not horrible, but that's typically what they've been doing. MVP and Lashley win, as they probably should, since Cedric and Ricochet are just here to job, basically. And then Lashley gets that full Nelson on. Everything's put over. Randy Orton with Andrade and Garza and Zelina. Randy Orton is the serious business guy, and guys got to keep it together as a team tonight. Andrade and Garza not really getting elevated with this rub, but such as it is. Go to commercial. We come back, interview with Kairi Sane and Asuka. This is my favorite moment. I actually wrote down a little moment of Kairi Sane playing their entrance song on the recorder, which is way more entertaining than it should have been. And then we hit the 2-hour mark as we go into match number 5. Big Show and the Viking Warriors against Randy Orton and Angel Garza and Andrade. And I wrote here in my notes, I'm sure they're going to go into commercial and they'll come back and do the finish that I described at the top of the show. And sure enough, Orton's getting mad because Andrade and Garza are having a hard time with Big Show and not really keeping it together. And then we go to commercial, and we come back, and Randy Orton slips in the ring, hits the RKO on one of the Viking Raiders, and wins as predicted. And Big Show never gets his hands on him. Yay. The Iconics and Ruby Riott have a bit of a schmoz, or they have a thing where they talk to each other, and Ruby Riott's going to wrestle the other one tonight, and I'm sure lose terribly. And then MVP and Cedric have a moment where they talk to each other, and MVP's trying to woo him to his side. Yay. We go to commercial for SmackDown as part of it. Then we come back. Flair and Orton are there with R-Truth, who makes a bit of a joke, claims Ric Flair is disguised, or Tozawa is disguised as Ric Flair, but then runs off when Tozawa really shows up with the ninjas, and Orton leads them, the ninjas and Tozawa, in the wrong direction. Could have been a very cool segment where different things were combining, but again, this Randy Orton thing is being played as serious as a heart attack, so for them to mix it with the lighthearted comedy thing just seems like it takes away from everybody's thing. Let me repeat that. Randy Orton's thing, which is being played as serious as a heart attack, doesn't work when you mix it with the comedy stuff at all. It takes away from both the comedy and the seriousness of the Randy Orton thing. It would be the equivalent of suddenly R-Truth running into Rey Mysterio when he's talking about, they try to take my eye and hurt my son, and then R-Truth makes a little light joke about eyes and then runs off. It doesn't work. It takes away from the serious thing. I'm a big fan of different things interacting with each other, but you got to realize when you have something that's absolutely serious as a heart attack and being played for high emotions and high stakes, that throwing the comedy stuff there with it, unless it's expertly written, which these things certainly aren't, takes away from both. Then we get match number 6, Ruby Riott versus Billie Kay with Peyton. And as predicted, Billie Kay wins with a really terrible looking power bomb. We're going to interview with Bailey and Sasha. How many segments is that for the women now? They definitely know which side their bread is buttered on. We're going to get Bailey and Nikki Cross again at the Extreme Rules. We're reminded of that again. Then we go into Asuka versus Bailey, which is our main event. They wrestle very well and very capably, and then we go to commercial. We get one last plug-in for NXT, and then we come back. The cheating that Bailey and Sasha do for the false finishes absolutely rules. It's very, 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 very effective. We get this crazy finish where people are breaking stuff up. People are coming into the ring to get other people to come into the ring to take the ref so Bailey and Sasha can do double teams. All this kind of crazy stuff happens. At the end of the day, at the end of it all, Asuka pins Bailey, which is phenomenal and really makes Asuka look great on her own brand. And apparently we don't get dual title switching or anything like that. Okay. But it was a great finish to the show. Crazy finish. And that's the end of Raw. Does it feel like a flagship show worthy? Not necessarily, though featuring the women so much, especially with Charlotte not being here, was definitely the move. And it all worked out in the end. Of course, the cynical person would say, because the third hour of Raw is the one that's been the lowest rated forever and a day, that's where they put the women as the main event. One would see this as a cynical move, but I do not. I think they're trying to improve that third hour, and putting the women there who have traditionally gotten the best part of the ratings for a long time seems a move in that direction. So I'm going to refuse to be cynical and just say that this was a very serviceable Raw with a couple of very notable bad glitches, but some of the moves that they're making in a positive direction, announcing some matches beforehand, that kind of thing. And I think the commercial breaks are actually working. They're hooking and dragging in various ways to get there. Now, if they can just have a consistent pattern of behavior while continuing to improve, I think they'll be in decent shape. I'll be interested in seeing the ratings for this Raw. I imagine that they'll do pretty well. They didn't seem to have a whole lot of competition, so I would predict that they're going to be over an average of 2 million for the first time in a while. Let's hope so. Anyway, this has been Platinum vs. Raw for July 6, 2020, and I'm Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling.